Yes, we are live.
What is up, guys, and welcome to another Do's We Do Live. We are here to help make caregivers' lives more manageable at whatever stage that they're at in their caregiving cycle. We believe knowledge is the best way for you and your loved ones to be prepared for tomorrow. So each week, we're bringing you practical insights from professionals and real life stories from other caregivers to help you and your loved ones prepare to live a more fulfilled life. We are striving to break the chain of unprepared caregivers cycle. So we ask a hard question of you. Are you prepared for the time when you might have to become a full-time caregiver for a loved one? Because we always remind you, it's not about you if you die, it's about if you live. I'm your host, Brian Crawford. I'm here with my co-host, Kimberly Scott and Jeff Durstock. Today we have a little bit of a different show format. We've been having some guests on. We started coming to you live back in May, not really knowing what we were doing yet, except for kind of having a common belief in our mission to help caregivers thrive. We've had some incredible guests on our show over these last few months, and today we're going back and we're going to revisit some key and what we believe was some really valuable topics and takeaways that we were able to gather from these interviews. Guys, we're live um, on the Our Do As We Do Facebook and YouTube, as well as Kimberly Scott's uh,
LinkedIn.
YouTube and LinkedIn.
Just LinkedIn today.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Yes.
Why? Because we want to meet you where you are at online. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and notification button. Leave your questions in the comments and we'll get to them as we can or immediately after, as soon as we can. If you watch the replay, tell us where you're coming from. Um, in the comments, you can tag a friend that also that needs help. And of course, we would be grateful if you pass our live along to someone who needs help.
Or who wants to share their story,
Absolutely.
right? Yes. Um, because caregivers come in all shapes and sizes, all ages, and all, region of the world. So we want to explain what is exactly a caregiver. With that, it's somebody who, like myself, cares for my mother. We have colleagues that care for their parents, or a parent caring for a child. It's a family member that takes on this task of caregiving unpaid, to help out of love, and to help their loved ones. So um, it's not just your mom or your dad. It could it it's over 40 million people plus. The number has definitely grown, but it is those 40 million plus people go unpaid. They work their regular jobs. It could be your manager, it could be your coworker, it could be the you name it, the person that you pick up where you see at the grocery store, the gas station attendant. Like, it is definitely caregivers are come all walks of life. So we just want to make sure that for those that come into caregiving unexpectedly, that they have a resource, and that we can share stories with them so that they know that they are not alone, and maybe we can help them overcome some overwhelming challenges, give them resources, a place to speak, a place to go and seek knowledge, and for anyone that's caring for their loved one. Take it away, Jeff.
Yeah, so that's why this team's come together. We have a couple other teammates that we started coming together in March with our leader, Kimberly, and we created the Do As We Do Foundation with the purpose of supporting and helping these caregivers to be better prepared to thrive a day at a time. We're working to provide educational resources, provide topics that are meaningful to each caregiver that are out there, and provide a support community to empower caregivers to find the resources they need.
Yes, and with that, we started the Caregiver Relief Fund. Our goal is to also provide financial assistance to caregivers in need, um, that especially in the time of we will be here past COVID, but it definitely sparked in the time of COVID, because caregivers they're either living from paycheck to paycheck, or they're working multiple jobs just to support their loved one, and themselves. So we launched the application, which you can go to doaswedo.org to apply for assistance. It could be extra $200 on your rent, your mortgage, whatever it is. We want to be able to help those caregivers stay in their homes, so their loved ones don't have to be misplaced. So, with that said, let's jump into today's conversation. If I can get, if my electronics will work today, hit it. Brian, take it away.
All right, like I mentioned at the top of the show, today is a slightly different format than normal. Many of the guests that we've had on our show over the last months have either shared an incredible personal story of their journey as a caregiver. Um, we had a guest, Melissa Foley, who shared a powerful story of needing assistance of a caregiver. And a few other guests we've had on, they're currently making meaningful contributions professionally to our amazing caregivers' lives. So, again, today we're revisiting some topics and takeaways from these interviews. I know we have our first topic in the hopper, and one of the biggest things that we've been talking about, and what we are encouraging our caregivers to do, is start to have the conversation earlier with your family. And what this quote is from Melissa Foley. She says, "This can happen to anyone. Please have the conversation with your family, with your loved ones. Please do not put this on delay. If it's on your to do list, just get it done." And I think what she's meaning in it from her own standpoint of needing a caregiver is, I think she had talked a little bit about not wanting to be a burden, not having to be a burden on somebody else. And if she had, kind of planned, um, her life a little bit better, then maybe she wouldn't have felt like she was such a burden to others, to her caregiver.
Well, and in context, she had been traveling and for the past I want to say 9 to 10 years, and
Right.
doing volunteer work, and she came back to the states and had a traumatic, you know um, I can't even remember what the name of what happened, but she didn't have everything planned out. Luckily, she did have a, a HIPAA, like I believe she said, a power of attorney of a friend, but there was so much that she didn't have planned out. So she definitely knows it's a financial burden, and that she stressed out a lot of her friends and her family from uh, unexpectedly getting sick and in the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, when something unexpected like that happens, it's we rely on our friends and family for support. Obviously, your emotional care and state is the most important at that time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't she have someone start a Fundly page for her?
Yeah, the multifamily industry came together and definitely raised money for her to be able to. I mean, because she had to stay. She was in the hospital for quite a while. One of her really dear friends. She had multiple caregivers that took on because one of the original friend that she had gone to go visit. She was about to leave, so somebody else took her. Helped her, because it took her almost a year just to get back to her, normal, quote unquote, would you say, self. And she just barely went back to South Africa. So it definitely, multiple people. It took a village to take care of Foley, and she loved and thanked every single one of those people, that whether they contributed money or they you know helped with time.
For sure.
Uh, I, I think it's very fortunate that she had so many great people around her. But when we're getting in our element and we're working so hard and we're bouncing from place to place and doing so much, it's whether you just feel untouchable or different things happen. And if you're not having a plan for when something bad happens, that's what kind of the conversation that we've been talking about within our group. If there's not a plan for, if this happens, then we do this, it's a whole lot of chaos. Kimberly, I know that um, with your mom and being especially at a distance, caregiving at a distance, if something happens, you have to have a plan in place for what goes next.
Yes, absolutely. And you can plan all day long, but it doesn't always mean that it's going to be the perfect plan. But if you have, the conversation with people, like Foley had originally said that she had the forthright to, at least when she picked up to go overseas, that she at least had that conversation with her friend to say, hey, maybe you should be, my power of attorney or executor. I can't remember what it is that she did have in place, but
Right.
she definitely wasn't expecting to have this major heart surgery when she came back for the holidays. So,
And I think that's been a theme that's carried through a lot of our guests, right? Like
hmm
the early aspect is so important. And if that's one thing you take away from this summary and as we move forward is it's important to start as early as possible.
Yeah,
yeah,
we had an attorney, an elder law attorney, on. I think it was back in June. Her name was Lori Liu.
yes,
Her suggestion was for adult children to spend time with your parents, talking to them and getting to know what's important to them, and start the conversation. So she's not the only person. It seems like everybody that we're talking to
hmm
needs it to happen and wants it to happen and wants you to be prepared. Put that plan in place, right?
yeah. I'm having a little technical difficulties, of course. So hold on. I was going to throw up Lori Lou's quote, but she did say spend time with your loved ones and also have this conversation with uh with your family members, right? Like it's not putting let me just show this one because one of her quotes was very impactful. I mean, everything that she talked to us about was impactful, but putting together a long-term life care plan would include the whole family, and so that everybody knows, so nobody is um that nobody is left in the dark. Like you have to have, and if you're an only child, uh then you have to have that conversation with your parents, and vice versa. I have an older brother, two older brothers, and we're doing that right now with my dad. My brother and I have had the conversation with my mom, and my brother is caring for my grandmother, and my brother, my sister-in-law, caring for my grandmother, and I'm taking my mother. Like you have to divide and conquer, because it's a lot. It's a lot for anybody.
Kimberly, what's the value of making sure that everybody's on the same page?
Well, the first thing is is there's no hard feelings. You don't get angered and overwhelmed. And if you're, because for my mother who has dementia, um, she there's certain things she can remember and other things that she can't. So her response, to what she tells my brother or someone else might be different than what's really truly is happening. So if everybody is included in the conversation, nobody gets their feelings hurt. Nobody is thinking that wrongdoing is happening, right? Not that that doesn't occur, but you don't get your wires crossed. There's not a lot, nobody's getting their feelings hurt. I feel is the best way, and not one person is overwhelmed. I don't know, Jeff. You said you
Yeah.
just recently brought together your family.
Yeah, I was gonna share. I mean, we talk about putting some of this into action, and we've done the same thing in my family. I think that's good advice. I also think we all have kind of various aspects to bring to the table, and it's important to kind of share those and hear kind of different views and approaches of how we should handle this because it is a lot to your point, and there's tough decisions that have to be made, and when you're making them as a family unit,
hmm
it feels easier.
Yeah, yeah, that's the bottom line. And then you don't, and there's your it's almost like, hey, sis or brothers got XYZ, I got this over here, and you can, if you can help with that other thing, it's like an operation system, right? You gotta, one head's got to talk to the other so that you can move forward and everybody be on that train, that ship, that boat, and make sure that you're doing the best that you can for your loved one. So
Right.
good for you. Good for you guys are doing that. We do. I want to acknowledge. Let me acknowledge some folks. Laura Lestis, thank you for joining us. And Diana sends her love from Mexico.
Oh, I
Melissa,
appreciate it.
Melissa Foley says hello. Yes, we're talking about you,
Hey,
Melissa.
Melissa.
Hi.
Um, we love you. And Sam, do what Melissa says. Have the conversation with your loved ones now and don't wait. Yes, sir. We agree. And he also comments it's very important to keep the whole entire family on the same page. Um,
I
so,
also want to say hey to Israel. This is not the Pizza Hut Club.
oh, Izzy, oh, Izzy, yes. Thank you, Izzy. Yes, it is not. Nope, it is not. But and he's actually somebody I've been trying to get on our on Do As We Do Live. We'll talk about that later, but I'm gonna give him a shout out and maybe we can like pressure him into coming on soon. Um, so it definitely it it adds less stress, if you will, right?
For sure.
Um, I'm not reading from the script, guys, because my electronics are not working with this dual monitor. But I'm gonna definitely throw this quote out there that Steve Salami made when we interviewed him back in July. I thought the date was on there, but he did say it's the truth. Everything on this earth lives and dies, plants, animals, humans. We all are born and we all die. If you look at it that way, then it hurts, but it's a part of life. That meaning I felt when he said that it's like we all come into this world, we're all going to go out of this world. We need help coming into the world when we're born as babies, no matter who it is. And then that those same us as children, when we get older, we revert backwards, and so we'll need help going out of this world gracefully, with dignity, and with love and support. Um, so that was very impactful when he said that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead,
he
Jeff.
faced a lot, he faced a lot in a short period of time. And,
Hmm.
I think he provided a lot of impactful words for us to kind of listen to. And his aspect on life, I think it's spot on.
Yes, absolutely. Especially his, everything that he's doing for his mother is quite, phenomenal.
I think one of the points that our friend Sam had brought up earlier in the week is that this quote meant to him that a majority of us will end up requiring a caregiver at some
Yes.
point. So it's our duty and our responsibility to, like we talked about before, help them help us put
Yes.
that plan together because
Yeah.
we're all going to need to accept that we're all getting older day by day by day. But it's our responsibility to help make the lives of the people around us, the people that are going to be caring for us, easier and better,
Yes,
and make
absolutely.
it better for ourselves as we end our lives, right? But um,
And even
Kimberly, do you have another potential quote for us to pull up, maybe?
yes, I'm gonna share this one as my screen. Lori Lou, when clients come into my office and they often say they just want a will, and she tells them that's for after you die. I loved that.
Okay, so what's the quote that you always say?
It's not it's not when you die, it's about if you live. Because you can if you get cancer, if you have a stroke and live, you can get dementia from having a stroke. You can get dementia, temporary dementia from having a heart attack. There's I know people that have gotten hit on the head and they had to reprogram their brain from a traumatic brain injury. Like it's about if you live, and if you don't have that plan in place or you haven't had that conversation with your loved one. My mom was young, she was 64 years old, and I, looking back at it, I wish I would have given it some more time and maybe just taken her on a vacation, because she was pretty stressed out, because stress causes dementia. But it's if we'd had some sort of a plan and we didn't, because she was fairly young. But people are getting sick younger and younger. Like millennials and women are 20, they're 25% of caregivers, unpaid caregivers are millennials and women. Um, because just of the times, and especially millennials that they their parents had them late, and they call that the sandwich generation. But they're now, these millennials are having to take care of, you guys are the millennials, like you guys are thinking about this with your parents because your parents are getting older. But if you don't have that conversation, then how do you know what they want done? What they have already in place, if they have long-term care, or it's not even about life insurance, because that's
Right.
after you die as well.
So
Yeah.
if can you bring that quote back up?
Yeah.
What I think was important and what my takeaway was, and if I'm remembering the rest of this conversation right, and don't quote me, please. I'm not a lawyer. Go find your own lawyer.
Yeah.
Uh, the will is just a piece of paper. It's a suggestion for what you would like done for all of your assets after you die.
Mhm.
And if I'm remembering this correctly, don't quote me. The powers of attorney was what Lori suggested. That those are the documents that your family will need going forward, and
Mhm.
those are the documents that keep your assets safe and let somebody help you um, protect your quality of life, protect your assets while you're still alive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, from what I'm understanding, that is the direction that we need to go. We need to be thinking about what, not if we die, that's the will, but what if
Mhm.
we live?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a goal without a plan is just a wish. I mean, think about all the things we plan in our lives, like you think of your milestones. I mean, there's so much planning that goes into that, but that's why you got to look at the end as well.
Yeah, you do. And we don't like, and I know it's a tough conversation. I've had a lot of people say that we're talking about things that people don't want to talk about, but that's what I want to make sure nobody goes through this, and because you're already dealing and juggling with your own lives, like we're adults, right? We're working, we have our personal lives, we have, we might have a spouse or children or whatever it is, and you're juggling that, plus now you got to juggle another, your loved one, whether it's a parent, it's a child, or it's aunt,
Right.
uncle, a friend, whatever it is. Like, you're doing it a labor of love, and you want to do it right, you don't want to mess up, right? And nobody's perfect, but if you don't have a conversation, that makes it even harder, you
Yeah.
know?
Melissa just chimed in, and I love this. She said, "Don't take your health for granted."
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Thank you, Melissa, for saying that. 100%. Because we don't know if we have a stroke, or if we're going to get hit by a bus and live, if my clumsy self, as I'm texting down the road, I'm going to hit the curb. You just don't know, right? So if we don't plan, or at least just have a small conversation with our loved one, then how are we going to know?
For sure.
And speaking about caregiving from the caregiver's perspective, and that one of the quotes that's coming up is that is from Steve Salami, one of
Yes.
our guests, that said, basically the caregiving is brutal on the caregiver, and it's
Yes.
important to not give up hope. It's important to not lose hope.
Yeah.
If I'm
It's
looking at this right, he says, "I'm telling you what I've learned about in fighting these terrible diseases," which I think at that moment he was talking about Alzheimer's with his mother. If you lose hope, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because caregiving can kill the caregiver. There's a common term that everybody that I have met, and in my last, I'd say 2.5 years of research, with about caregiving, and just my journey in the last 10 years with my mom, that everybody talks about caregiving can kill the caregiver. And Steve Salami said it the best on his interview, was July the 9th. Thank you, Sam, for telling us, um, that you definitely, if you don't take care of yourself first, then you can't take care of your loved one, and
Right.
your family. And a lot of times caregivers forget that. I've forgotten that. It's And you don't recharge your battery, you don't make sure that your own mind, body, and soul is on the right, um just is right, period, whatever
Yeah.
that right looks like. Yeah, right. I mean, then you can't care for your loved one. or your children or your spouse or whatever it is, right? It's just kind of one of those things. When he said it, it's like it is something that we forget.
Guys, I think as we kind of come to the end of the conversation, I'm gathering probably two or three different takeaways from this. I think one of them is to, like we've always said, have the conversation with your family as early as you can.
Hmm.
I think it's very important. Number two would be as informed and prepared as you possibly can. So put that plan into place. Once you've had that conversation, put the plan in place. Talk to the professionals in your life, uh, medical, financial, legal, and
Yeah, don't.
then
Well,
make sure everybody knows what. Be on the same page.
yeah, and if that means getting like Dr. Jason Saunders said, get a second, always get a few opinions from a few different doctors to try to understand all your options. That is something I wish I would have done. I did not do, like, I just was like, oh, this is dementia, that's it. I didn't go and get a second opinion. I didn't even know that that was okay, and it is. It's okay to get a second opinion. You're educating yourself. And that,
Absolutely.
when he stated that in his interview, I was like, darn it, you're absolutely right. I shouldn't feel bad. It's like shopping for a house or a car. You got to make sure that you understand all your options. And what's good for your loved one.
Right.
If that doctor is right, if they can do whatever it is that they need to do, like if it's surgery, or if it's therapy, or if like with him, it was the oxygen chambers that were pretty,
Yep.
a new, what's it called, holistic um care, if you will, that is amazing, that lots of people have talked about, and definitely we encourage people to look into.
Right. Ryan, did you have a third takeaway?
Yeah, I think it's just to be optimistic and continue to have hope in your life for your family, and take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Angie
Unconditional love.
Pusateri, thank you. She
Right.
says, thanks for sharing your stories.
Love you, Angie.
Yay!
Okay, guys, I think if you've made it here, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. Just a quick reminder: you can catch all of these full interviews with some
Hmm.
really great content with all these guests on our YouTube channel. Um, I think my plan is to toss it up to Kimberly to start closing us out.
Yeah, you can catch everything on either Do As We Do Facebook, uh, our Do As We Do YouTube channel. You can go to doaswedo.org to either fill out an application, volunteer, donate. We are definitely this our team of volunteers. They are from everything from our website to these lives. Everybody is volunteering their time, and we want to make sure that that relief fund continues on. So if there are people that are out there that need, if there are caregivers that are needing help and assistance, we're working. We want to make sure that we're there for them, not just with education, but also with this financial assistance. Because that's very important to us, and we know that it's hard, especially in these times that we're experiencing, and we want to not have them worry about where they're going to live, they're already worried about medications and doctor visits that are now teledocs. We don't want them to have to be worrying about if they're going to have a roof over their head. So it's very, very important that we you know, keep this conversation going. We keep the Caregiver Relief Fund alive. So please, every little bit helps. And start talking to your loved ones. If you know somebody that needs the assistance, that you know would want to be on caregiver, or Do As We Do live to share their story, or as an expert professional, please tag them, share this with them. And we just appreciate you all for joining us, for sure. And donate. even if it's $25, please.
Right.
DoWeDo.org.
And
Yes,
100% of our donations go back to the cause. So
absolutely.
we're all volunteers here, and we've had a strong group of people come together to kind of help support our foundation. I want to give a huge shout out to Spirex. They're our mastermind behind our website.
Yes,
Approved Shield does our applications. I'm a soap addict. Blue Jade, Hustle Aesthetics, Richby, Salon D, Short
yes.
Production, and AK Realty.
Yeah, I
We
put them up on the screen for everybody to see because we're very, very thankful for all the assistance that we've gotten from our sponsors. And let me. So yeah,
So yeah, we appreciate all of them. As Kimberly said, I mean, I see some new faces joining us for the first time. If you have ideas on future topics, we would love to hear your feedback. If you have questions about anything we talked about today, please leave that in the comments, and we'll certainly get back to you. We're here every Thursday talking about exciting topics, and we appreciate you joining us. And with that, I mean, I think that wraps up our
yeah,
segment. So we really hope you have a great weekend. It takes a
yes,
village, and sharing is caring.
yes. Thank you all. Take care. Bye.
Hey guys.